Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Had Golden Fox Harem with Tsunade Part 1 Naruto X. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. It had been a couple of weeks and Kakashi finally managed to return home. They had finally found that base that Anko had remembered. The only problem, no one had been there for at least 3 months if not more. Basically Anko was pissed the entire trip back, and after all of that Kakashi was looking forward to getting back home and checking in on Naruto. He opened the door to his apartment feeling better just stepping inside of the door. "Ah Kakashi, you have finally returned," a very loud voice said, and Kakashi sighed. He had forgotten about him. "Hey there Guy, was it? How was Naruto? Any problems?" He caught the look in Guy's face and decided to sit down for this one. Guy filled him in on the 2 ninjas that had attacked Naruto. Kakashi knew that something like this might happen. The only problem was that he had hoped to have been there for him. He heard how the 2 ninjas were executed, although their contact was never found. It was hearing this that Kakashi was thinking of starting Naruto on his ninja training at the moment. Naruto needed to be able to protect himself, as it clearly showed that he wouldn't be around to protect Naruto all the time. He had to make sure that Naruto could be able to defend himself when the time came. "Thank you Guy, thank you for keeping Naruto safe," he finally said to him. Guy grinned at him. It was no trouble at all, although he was scared by the ordeal. He seems to have come around. Kakashi was glad to hear it. "So where is he?" "Naruto, your father is home," he called out, and what came out would be something that gave Kakashi nightmares for 2 months. Naruto ran out dressed in a neon green one-piece suit just like Guy's. He stood beside Guy giving a grind and a thumbs up at his father. Kakashi's only visible eye twitched at the horror before him. He was hoping that he was asleep or caught in a genjutsu. "Daddy, you're back," Naruto said happily. Kakashi was too tired and too sore to move, plus there was the shock to his system. On the one hand he wanted to thank Guy for saving his son, on the other he wanted to kill him in ways that would make the most diehard Anbu throw up. So he would form a compromise. He would give Guy a 15-minute head start before he hunted him down. 1 year later, Naruto age 5. "Again Naruto," Kakashi said. Naruto was in training gear as he practiced another attack combo, a training dummy. He had been at it for a couple of hours now and he was tiring. Kakashi watched on as he pointed out flaws in Naruto's stance or movements. Things had changed a bit for them in that year. They have moved out of the apartment and Kakashi went back to his family home. It was a modest place, but it had a very large backyard with a high brick wall that fenced out the home. It was so strange being back here. The place had to be cleaned up when he got there, and he started to tidy the place up when he moved back in. He remembered all the memories of this place, all those long forgotten things that came rushing back. How his mother would be cooking in the morning, how his father would train him like he was doing with Naruto now. The only thing that had been a major problem had been that one room, the room that his father had taken his own life in. For months he couldn't face that room. But in the end he figured if he had to live in this place he would do something about it. It had been a large tea room, but he turned it into a training room. The room was so different now that he sometimes forgot what had happened in it. Naruto of course had loved the new home. He spent all week running around, playing everywhere, and loved the large yard. There was a few trees and he kept on trying to climb them. He kept falling, but he only dusted himself off and tried again. It was like he refused to ever let anything beat him, something Kakashi knew he got from his biological father. For that year he also started Naruto on his training. He was only focusing on physical skills at the moment. When he was a bit older he would train Naruto in chakra. He still went on mission, and apparently Naruto had taken a liking to his Uncle Guy, although Kakashi refused to let him be alone with Naruto for more than a week. It had taken Kakashi over a week to unbrainwash him from Guy's influence that first time. Iruka still helped out as well, and Naruto at least had someone to play with at times thanks to young boy. Although Naruto had trouble making some friends, sometimes other kids would bully him or pick on him, others would just ignore him. Kakashi knew that the kids were most likely told this by their parents, who were in turn warned about Naruto by certain members of the council. Kakashi really wanted to shove a kunai into those men, but he knew that technically they hadn't broken any laws. He just hated how Naruto would look so lonely at times when he thought no one was looking. Kakashi was brought out of his memories seeing Naruto panting and sweating and figured it was enough for the day. Okay Naruto, good work. I want you to shower and change, and for doing such a good job, I'm taking you to the park today. Really? Cool. Thanks Dad. He ran off suddenly filled with new energy. Kakashi smiled behind his mask at the boy's antics. Meanwhile, across the city at the same park that a lot of families brought their children to, another parent was with her own daughter that day. The young Hinata Hyuga had been taken to the park by her mother this day. The young girl was never very good with other people. Unlike the rest of her clan, she was always shy around others, even the other children of the branch family. But because she was of the main house, the children were wary of playing with her, so she was left alone a lot. Thankfully, her mother noticed this and took her out with other children now and then. The only problem was Hinata was too shy to go up most of the time. She would play by herself at times, wishing she could just go up to someone making a friend. At the moment she was watching a group of kids play and she wanted to join in, but she was too afraid. What if they didn't like her? What if she said something stupid and they made fun of her? What if she wasn't any good and they didn't want her to play? Thoughts like this plagued her entire life as far back as she could tell. So she sat with her mother, who was worried about her daughter. Hana Hyuga had hoped that getting away from the clan home would help her daughter be more open, but she seemed to be having some trouble here as well. She knew that her daughter was a very kind girl and would make lots of friends if only she wasn't so shy. Honestly, she didn't know where she got it from, or why she was like that. She knew that her husband was worried as well, especially if the clan elders thought that their daughter wasn't good enough to be the heir and maybe another member of the family should take the role. She knew that her husband never liked the cage bird technique used on the rest of the family and certainly didn't want them to bear it like his twin brother and his family had to. She stood up and Hinata did the same without a word. Why don't we get something to drink? Oh okay mommy, she said in her usual quiet voice. They walked on and she noticed a tall man with large silver hair with a small blonde boy. It was a bit odd. The man had a mask on despite him being in more casual wear and had a headband over his eye. The boy had blonde hair and strange markings on his face, with a black shirt with an orange swirl pattern on them. Dad, after this can you teach me more cool ninja stuff? The boy asked excitedly. His father sighed. Yes, I swear Naruto, for a boy your age you seem to like training. Most kids want to play instead. Well, I don't really got many friends, he said, and suddenly his face took on a sad look. It was then that Hana knew the couple. By now the entire Hyuga clan knew of Naruto Hatake and his role as the prison for the nine-tailed demon. However, it was never spoke outside of the clan as per the law, and the children were never told. Although she had overheard a few of the branch family members expressing concern for the safety of their children. Personally, she wasn't sure what to think, and maybe it was time for her to find out for herself what this Naruto was like. After all, he seemed nice enough as it was. She walked up to them and Kakashi noticed a Hyuga woman walking towards them. Everyone knew a Hyuga when they saw them. The pearl eyes were a dead giveaway, plus they always carried themselves with this type of elegance. She wore a blue and very expensive kimono, had long dark hair and a very beautiful features, and it soon came to him who exactly it was. Good morning Hyuga-sama, Kakashi said with a slight nod of his head. Good morning to you Hatake-san, she said politely. Please drop the san, I never liked that stuff anyway. He waved it off. She looked at him. Everyone knew the legendary copy ninja, but she had expected a bit more. He was way too relaxed and seemed bored. He didn't carry himself like a warrior, and you'd never know he was with the way he talked. Naruto looked up at the lady. She seemed kind of pretty, but then he noticed something else. There was a small motion behind the lady and Naruto went to look. He walked around her to see a small girl roughly his age with short dark hair hiding behind the lady. Hey, what's your name? He asked. The girl made an eep sound and clutched her mother but looked at who asked. She looked to see a boy with golden hair and blue eyes looking at her confused. Hinata wasn't sure what to do. The boy had asked her a question and it was rude not to say anything, but she couldn't seem to find her voice. Her name is Hinata. Now introduce yourself, her mother said softly. The girl released her mother's clothing and her cheeks flushed a bit. She fiddled with her fingers looking down a bit. My name is Hinata Hyuga. The boy only smiled at her. I'm Naruto, you want to go play? Hinata looked up both shocked and surprised. No one had asked her to play before, but he seemed to want to. She looked up at her mother and she could see the woman smile and nod at her. Hinata gave a small smile and nodded. Cool, let's go play. He grabbed her hand and quickly led her away as she blushed a bit. You don't mind Naruto playing with her? Kakashi asked, watching the children. No, he seems like a nice boy and my daughter has trouble with making friends. She said, a small smile on her lips seeing her daughter play with another child like a normal child should. Kakashi nodded his head. Naruto has the same, but for other reasons I'm afraid. I think Hinata is the only child that agreed to play with him like this before. Then maybe they'll be good for each other, she said, watching. Naruto couldn't help but be happy. For the first time ever he had someone to play with. Sure, she was kind of strange. Her cheeks were red a lot. She had eyes like she had never seen before. They were all pale and with no iris in them. She talked kind of funny, but she seemed really nice. They started to play on the slides in Jungle Gym. He helped her out here and there and then they got to something he always wanted to try, the seesaw. Hey, come on Hinata, I always wanted to try this. He took her hand leading her to it. He looked at it confused, not sure how you got it started. Normally he only saw kids while playing it, not how they got on or off. Do you know how it works? Hinata nodded. Why yes, one goes on first and jumps up, then the other has to jump onto it when the other part goes down. Oh okay, then you go on first then. Hinata got on the smallest one since it looked to be built for kids their age. She had never got to play like this before. Naruto was just so fun to be around. He made her smile and feel happier than she had been in a very long time. Plus that smile of his somehow always made her feel something, like when you felt the sun on your face on a nice spring day. It was warm and comforting. She only felt like this around her mother. Hinata prepared herself and jumped up. Naruto quickly got on. He barely made it onto it, but he got on. Then he got ready and jumped up. Both children had never been on something like this. The way they rushed up into the air and just stopped and then came back down was a new type of fun for them. Their parents looked on happy to see their children play like this. It had been a very long time since they started to play and Hana noticed the time. She walked over to the playing children. Hinata, it's time to get back home now. Why yes mother, she said and looked to Naruto. You can get off first. Naruto smiled at her. She nodded and got off. Unfortunately Naruto was about to get a very important lesson, a lesson in gravity. He hadn't expected to fall faster than the last time. The seat hit the ground hard and he bounced off and landed onto the ground on his back. Hinata gasped and ran over to him worried. Naruto, are you okay? Ow. Next time I got to remember to be careful. He propped himself up and gave her a smile. Hinata's worried look melted at his smile and she couldn't help but smile back. Then Naruto frowned a bit. He hadn't enjoyed himself like this in a long time and he didn't want to stop, but he knew that her mother had her reasons for going. Hana Hyuga walked up glad to see the young boy was okay, although she kept a slightly passive face as was the way of the clan. Hinata, you can say goodbye to your friend, but I can take you back here and you two can play again another day. Naruto blinked a few times. He never had a real friend his own age before. He looked at Hinata then. Hey Hinata, are we, friends now? Hinata blushed as her fingers were interlaced. The truth was she liked Naruto and she did want to be his friend. She looked at her mother with hope-filled eyes and her mother only smiled at her. Hinata brightened up looking at him and gave a shy smile and nodded her head. Naruto's return smile was large and full of happiness. He finally had made a friend, a real friend. I'd like to have you as a friend. Hey dad, you think Hinata-chan can come over and play some time? Hinata was surprised again. She had never had a friend to just go over and play with. If this was what a friend was like, then she enjoyed it. She hoped that Naruto's father said yes, and that her mother would allow Naruto to come to the Hyuga compound sometime. For the first time in her short life, Hinata felt like there was something to look forward to. Well, I don't see why not, that as if Hyuga-sama here doesn't mind. Kakashi smiled at Naruto, ruffling his wild hair. I think something can be arranged, she told the group. They said their goodbyes and she led her daughter back holding her hand. She could see how happy Hinata was and was glad that her daughter finally found a friend in Naruto. She of course would talk to her husband about this, but she knew how to get him to see her way. After all, what kind of wife couldn't keep their husband in line? So Hinata, what do you think of Naruto? He seems like a nice boy, she asked her daughter. I like him, he's fun, and, makes me happy, she blushed looking at the ground. That's good then Hinata, she said to her. Uchiha compound. Fugaku Uchiha wasn't very happy, which was hard to see at times. He usually wore such a hard expression on his face. But things were not going well. First off, someone in the group had hired those damn ninjas to take out the boy last year. He hadn't sanctioned that, and now the boy would be watched even more closely. His people had told of how Anbu members were making passes over the Hitaki home now, and even at times would make a pass by the demon boy when they saw him. He knew it was the Hokage's doing. The old man had to have gone senile to let that boy live. He was a danger to the entire village. If the seal on that boy failed, the demon could get loose and then it would be the end for this village and everyone in it. They had lost a few promising Uchihas that day, and he knew that if the demon got out again, there would be no stopping its rampage. He signed as he walked through the large home. He looked out a doorway, seeing his oldest son Itachi overlooking his younger brother's training. Sasuke, even though his own son so far hadn't shown the same level of talent as his older brother, it would seem that his youngest child did not measure up. It was a pity, but then again, to match Itachi would take a miracle. His oldest son was a prodigy. Not any other clan could lay claim to such a ninja, not even their rivals, the Hyuga clan. But there were other things that worried him. Over the years, Itachi was getting more and more distant. It was getting harder and harder to understand what was going through his son's head, and it was starting to worry him. He had no idea why, but it did, and the more time passed, the more worried he what Itachi would do. He wasn't sure what, but it was obvious that he didn't have the same respect for the clan like other Uchiha members did. In fact, he kept his distance from the clan all except for his best friend Shisui Uchiha. Fugaku would send for the boy. He would order him to keep an eye on Itachi, and report anything out of the ordinary. He knew the boy was loyal to the clan first and to his own best friend, so he didn't have to fear about the boy telling Itachi. He watched as Sasuke missed a target with a kunai. Fugaku sighed and hung his head a bit. Why couldn't his youngest son have the same talent as his older brother? He walked away wondering if maybe Sasuke would be better off with a life outside of being a ninja. After all, it was obvious that unless things got any worse, Itachi would lead the clan. Sasuke had seen his father there, and when he saw how disappointed he was in him, Sasuke felt a deep shame. All his young life he just wanted to make his father proud, so why couldn't he do it? Why was his brother so much better than he was? Young Sasuke just didn't understand why he felt like he was so weak all the time. He knew that his family was supposed to be the strongest there was, but if he was weak, what did that make him? You shouldn't let what he thinks get you down, little brother, Itachi said, walking over to him. He doesn't know everything or what real power is. Keep at it and prove him wrong. Sasuke looked up to his older brother. He was everything that he tried to be. He trained so hard to be as good as Itachi, but never seemed to have the power to get there. But he wouldn't stop. He would be as strong as his brother and he would make his father proud of him one day. He wouldn't rest until he had proven himself to his father and clan that he was more than just the younger brother of Itachi. He would one day be on par with his older brother. Sasuke got up and went back to work training. He was tried and aching, but he wouldn't stop until he reached his goal, not matter what the cost. Itachi looked on, no emotions on his face, but he could see that Sasuke had potential. He just needed the right motivation to let it out. Out of all the clan, it was his younger brother that had the only true potential because he worked hard. The others had gotten lazy and lax. Well, not him. He would prove just how inferior this clan was to him. He just wasn't sure how, and besides, this village offered him nothing anyway. He had no challenges, nothing to truly test himself. He had to go out on missions to find challenges, and even those were disappointments. He walked away, leaving his little brother to his training as he thought more about his future in this village and with this clan. It had been a couple of months since Naruto met Hinata, and even though he hadn't made any more friends, she was still his best friend. They would play together all the time. They would meet in that park, and once Hinata's mother even brought her over to play. They had played in Naruto's large backyard. It wasn't as big as Hinata's home, not that Naruto would know since he hadn't been there yet. But to him it was huge. Hinata herself was better for having a friend in her life, and she looked forward with her time with Naruto. He was always smiling and making her feel happy. One time an older boy had been picking on her and she was reduced to tears. The next thing she knew, Naruto had tackled the older boy and was beating him up for making her cry. The fight hadn't been that long and the older boy was sent running, but Hinata had never had anyone stand up for her like that. She was thankful for someone to stand up for her like that. Naruto just didn't like to see Hinata cry, and he was bullied himself now and then, but if was him he could take it, but not when they went after his friend. Kakashi himself was noticing how sometimes Naruto got into fights with some boys. Sometimes he would find him with a bloody lip, or dirt and bruises on his son's body. Nothing major, but he didn't like that fact that other kids were picking on him. Unfortunately, he knew for a fact that the older generation by now all knew or knew enough about Naruto. He caught some people glaring at him, so Kakashi glared back. He didn't want to think what would happen to Naruto if he wasn't around to take care of him. But he kept up Naruto's training, and he had to admit Naruto had a healthy work ethic. He kept on going sometimes until he just dropped. He was kind of proud of that. With some help he could become a great ninja one day. After all, given who his biological father and adopted father, it was no surprise if Naruto became a legend in his own right. It was king of nice to know that the Hatake name through Naruto would continue on. Besides, with his busy life, he was doubtful that he would find a woman to settle down with and have any more kids. Sure, he went out now and then, but nothing serious. Some were just some women that wanted to unmask him, not that they ever did. Others wanted to know if the rumors about him were true, although with the rumors that he found out, Kakashi was surprised since he was sure half the things he hadn't tried yet. But now there was another problem. He was being sent on a mission now and he couldn't find Iruka to see if he could take care of Naruto. He was meeting with the Hokage now to see about the mission and he had no idea on who to ask to look after Naruto. He wanted to make sure that he was well looked after, of course. He entered into the Hokage's room bowing slightly. "I'm here, Hokage-sama." "Ah, good Kakashi. I need you to go out and scout out the border. I've had reports of a group of missing nin that are from Rock that is going around the borders. They stick close by raiding villages and then sneak across into the border of a country that is not on friendly terms with the one they just pillaged." Kakashi nodded. "So any pressuring ninjas will have trouble. Say if we went into Cloud territory, they might just attack us using the rogue group as a cover to settle old scores." He had to admit it was dangerous but a cunning plan, plus the fact that he was most likely going to lead Anbu group meant these had to be A-class ninjas or above. This was definitely going to be a bit difficult to do. He was already making some plans on taking with him a backup squad just in case. "Before I go, I need the usual favor," he said, and the old man nodded. I take it Iruka isn't free this time. The old man said, smoking his pipe. Kakashi nodded, and you know my rule on Guy, no more than 5 days alone with Naruto. Ever. So I need someone trustworthy and can handle things. You remember what happened last year with Naruto? I want to make sure who is left can handle things. That in Naruto, he silently said to himself with all the little tricks he had shown Naruto in the year his son was getting pretty devious and had seemed to like pulling pranks now and then. The Hokage was deep in thought on who to trust. He knew that word that Naruto held the demon had circulated over the years. Thankfully no one had told the younger generation, but still it seemed that certain people were so afraid of the boy they would bend if not break his decree. He was wondering who to trust when the door was slammed open and a very pissed off Kunoichi walked into the room. The hell is this? Anko demanded, throwing down a letter. A simple C-rank mission. I didn't bust my to make Jordan just to do this, old man. Normally a person in his position would take offense to that, but he only smiled. He knew that Anko wouldn't like that, but honestly it had been the only mission at the time and she was getting restless. I'm sorry Anko, but there aren't any more. It was either that or I give it to a genin team. This sucks. She sat down with her arms crossed with a pout on her face. She needed some action. She was going stir crazy with nothing to do. Plus she needed to prove herself, that she wasn't some failure, that she had the skills. She then noticed the Anbu with the mask and she felt like she had seen that mask before. But after a while all the Anbu looked alike to her. See something you like? She grinned at him hoping for a reaction. He just shrugged, which only pissed her off. It was then that the Hokage got an idea. Well Anko, I do have a rank B mission that came in that you might need to handle. Oh. Now she was interested and didn't notice how Kakashi suddenly stiffened. It's a bodyguard position. Sounds okay to me. She shrugged. You can't mean. Kakashi was about to disagree. He had nothing against her. Hell, he actually respected her. You got something against me? She asked him with a dangerous tone and a glint in her eye that said if he said the wrong thing, she'd cut off his balls and feed them to him. After their first meeting he had looked up her career now and then and he was pleased with her abilities. Sure, she had some unique personality quirks, but then so did most of the best ninja. He knew at times it was just a coping mechanism. He signed knowing that if anyone could protect Naruto, this woman could do that, but who would protect Naruto from her? Very well, the Anbu will show you the way, Anko. The old man grinned, knowing full well Anko's reaction to her being manipulated into this. Anko followed the ninja through the city. He was pretty quiet, but that was Anbu for you. She followed him to a pretty nice home, traditional style, 2-story home with a large rock wall enclosing the area. A very large backyard was also seen as well. She looked around the place. It was pretty nice and wondered who lived in this home. She got her answer in the form of a rushing blonde boy that latched onto the other ninja. Dad, you're back already. The little boy smiled and Anko's eyes widened. This was the ninja's son. She looked at the young boy, blonde hair, blue eyes that she swore she had never seen on another person, and there were these strange little marks on his face. He looked up curiously at her and she was wondering just what the hell was going on here. Hey Dad, who's the lady? He asked. The man laughed and pulled off his mask, and if Anko was shocked before, now she really was. It was Kakashi. She hadn't seen him since that one mission, and now here she was in his home and meeting his son. Although she remembered that he was adopted, so that was why the little boy looked nothing like him. This is Anko. She's going to be looking after you while I'm gone, Naruto. What? She screamed out. I thought this was a bodyguard duty. It is. You're guarding him. He smiled at her. It's babysitting. I am not a baby. Naruto shouted back at her. Shut it, kid. Make me ugly. What did you call me? You heard me. Kakashi was wondering if he should rethink his position on Guy. At this rate, he pulled Anko aside while she screamed bloody murder at Naruto while his son only gave it back right at her. It was kind of funny seeing a Jonin arguing with a little boy, but after they were alone she continued on with her ranting. First at him, then at the Hokage, and then at anything that came to mind. It took 15 minutes for her to calm down. You calm now? He asked, leaning against a wall. No. You at least going to stop screaming? Yeah. Good. He pushed himself off the wall. Now listen, Anko, this is important. Were you given the file on the Kyuubi when you were made Jornin? Yeah, it was about how. Oh, him. She realized that it was Naruto that had the demon in him. The file said that the boy had been named Naruto and that he had 6 marks on his face. It went on saying he had been adopted by a ninja but by who had been blacked out. The only reason Kakashi would ask about that file was if Naruto was the container for that demon. Kakashi nodded, impressed with how fast she got it. Yes, and because of that many view him with fear or hatred. In fact, last year there is an assassination attempt the last time I left for a long mission. So you can understand why I want someone I either trust or someone powerful enough to be trusted with my son's life. Anko looked into his one eye and she could see he was dead serious about this. He means a lot to you, huh? He may not be of my blood. But in every other sense he's my son. I've watched over him, cared for him, I've seen his first steps, his first words have been there for his entire life. I know what it's like to be alone in the world and I wanted to make sure he never felt that pain. Although I've not done as good a job as I would have liked. She looked at him confused, not knowing that the only people in Naruto's life was the Hokage who visited him now and then, Kakashi, his uncle, Guy, Iruka, the 2 people that ran his favorite ramen stand, and finally Hinata, his only friend. He wanted more for his son, but with certain adults poisoning the minds of the younger generation, it wasn't easy for Naruto to make friends. Anko wanted to ask a bit more, but the look she saw made her rethink things. She guessed that Naruto did deserve to be protected, even if he was a brat, he was still just a kid. Fine. But I'm not happy about this, just so you know. I know. Anko. Thank you. He told her. They went into the other room and Anko tried to get used to the fact she was going to be a glorified babysitter for the little brat. She looked down at the little blonde, wondering how she got herself roped into this. Later, Kakashi had left for his mission, leaving Anko a few things that she should know about, like Naruto's bedtime, not to feed him sugar and other things. There was a list, she just scanned through it and put it away. She took the time to look around the house, it was kind of nice, although kind of bland. She found a nice training room at least, and it would give her something to do later on. She found Naruto sitting in the living room, coloring and watching some kids' show. She sighed, she really didn't want to watch something like that, and as she sat on the couch she took the remote and changed it. Hey, I was watching that, Naruto said to her. Life is tough, so get used to it, she said offhandedly. Please. He looked up at her with one of those cute little pout. With his large blue eyes and cute little face, most people wouldn't be able to stand to look at that for more than a minute before caving in, and Naruto knew this since he used it on his dad a lot. That is when his dad knew well enough not to look at him when he tried it. Anko, however, just stared blankly at him and turned to her TV. Sorry, that doesn't work on me, but nice try. Naruto let the face fall. Meanie. Brat. Old hag. What did you call me? I'm not even 20 yet. Really? Naruto tilted his head. I thought you were 30. 30. By this time Naruto ran off laughing, with a pissed off Anko hot on his heels with said little boy laughing. Over with Kakashi. He and his group were traveling through the large trees that for some reason were always around in the Fire Country and a lot of the others. It was odd that how there were so many all over the place, with the exception of the country of Wind, given it was a desert. Some thought it might be from people like the first Hokage, who with his specialty in using tree type of jutsus, but Kakashi put it aside. His team stopped for a moment to catch their breath and to make plans on where to go to next. He sent Owl and Crane out first, while he was with Falcon and Ox. It was odd to always call each other by the mask they wore, but that was Anbu for you. They kept their identities secret from most, although Kakashi was starting to think he might want to go back to being a Jonin. Besides, these missions were starting to take a toll. That was the life in Anbu. You did the jobs that most didn't have the stomach for, but the downside was what it did to you. You could only do this for so long before it destroyed you. Images of his father suddenly got into his head and he quickly put that away. That was another reason he was thinking of getting out of this. He had enough saved up now and going back to Jonanpei he would be able to handle, and Naruto was older now. He didn't want to end up like his dad and leave Naruto alone in the world like he had been. He sighed, hoping that Anko and Naruto were getting along. "Area, you alright?" Ox asked him. "Just worried about my son is all. I hope he isn't causing too much trouble." What could a kid possibly do? Kakashi actually laughed a bit at that. He picks things up fast, he's already getting good at the basic taijutsu skills, and I've been teaching him a few other things like lock picking and how to get out of ropes. Ox looked at him for a moment. Why would you teach a kid that? He just shrugged. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Hitaki home. Now then, you just keep here and I'll let you go after an hour, Anko said, standing up and wiping her brow. "Let me go, you big meanie," Naruto yelled out, who was at this time tied to a chair. And to complete it, she gagged him lightly as he glared up at her. "Hey, be thankful I'm not into spanking, plus I've been known to do a hell of a lot worse, kid." She gave him one of those grins she reserved to scare the crap out of people, and it seemed to work well on bratty kids too. "There, now just let Auntie Anko have 1 hour of peace and quiet," she said, and closed the door. She didn't get 2 feet when the sounds of thumping and thrashing was heard. She sighed and rolled her eyes. "I should get paid more for this," she muttered. Anko was finally enjoying the quiet. She was on the couch just watching the TV and zoning out. It was half an hour later that she suddenly realized something. It was quiet, too quiet. In fact, the muffled sounds of Naruto were suddenly gone. Now she got a very bad feeling about this and carefully got up and went to the room she left him in. She opened the door a bit and looked in. Her eyes widened at the sight of the empty chair and ropes on the floor. She burst into the room. How the hell did? Wham! Anko felt something hit her head. She had been so surprised she let her guard down and a small sack of flour that had been rigged to the door hit her on the head. She was now white as a ghost with a large vein on her head. "That little brat is dead." Sounds of laughter and running feet told her where the soon-to-be dead boy was. She ran after him and saw him take a corner. She was going to make sure the little brat stayed in place and raised one of her arms. From under her trench coat a long green snake shot out. She saw it go after the boy and take the same corner. Then she heard lots of snapping noises and she stopped dead in her tracks. She knew by now that Naruto had a tendency for traps, and she wasn't going to fall into another one. She pressed herself up against the wall and carefully looked around it. Her jaw dropped at the sight of the hallway covered in mouse traps on the floor. She saw her snake was caught in several of them before it disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "It's not possible. It just isn't. Me, the great Anko Mitarashi, who was trained under that snake bastard Orochimaru, who scares the crap out of seasoned jonins, is getting her kicked by a damn toddler." She screamed in her mind. If this got out she would be a laughing stock, so she resolved that this kid was going down and hard. Naruto had been hiding for the past 10 minutes and was getting bored. The crazy lady didn't seem to be following him. He was hiding out in the laundry room under a pile of clothes, thinking she wouldn't want to check in the dirty pile. But he was getting bored with this now. Although she was crazy, she was kind of fun too. He never had an adult like this. His dad could ground him and Uncle Guy usually didn't have it in him to play on Naruto's level. Meaning Naruto liked to do anything to win and Guy was a bit too straightforward. Anko, however, seemed to be like him. She would do whatever it took to win. So now, FLLY bored out of his mind, Naruto decided to take the fight back to her. He started to sneak to his room where he put supplies for this in hope that the crazy lady wouldn't find him. He didn't see anyone, so when he got to his room he felt he was safe. He opened his door, and another sack of flour fell, only now hitting him. "Ah, what the?" Laughing was heard and he spun around to see Anko there. She still had flour over her body but was mostly cleaned up. She stood there laughing at him. "Serves you right, brat. how do you like a taste of your own medicine? Naruto scowled but then grinned. This was going to be more fun than he thought. Good, but you know I have to get even now, right, crazy lady? Anko got a grin on her face that most people would be creeped out by. Oh, you think you can take me on, brat? Naruto responded by quickly closing his door. Anko took only 3 large steps to get to it, and when she got in, she saw Naruto dive under his bed. She put her hands on her hips, actually disappointed. Come on, I thought you could think better than that. She waited for him to come out but lost patience after 30 seconds. Come on out already. No answer. Okay, then we do it the fun way. She took the bed and lifted it up and frowned at the fact no one was under the small bed. She then noticed that the panel that was on the wall was removed. The little boy had an escape route, most likely from Kakashi, to ensure Naruto had an escape route if the house was ever attacked. Well, damn, Anko said, lowering the bed. Looks like the fun was going to continue. Well, despite everything she had to admit, this was anything but boring. Naruto was trying to make his way as quietly as he could through the house. Thankfully, he knew the home better than Anko did and knew all the great hiding spots with his games of hide and seek with Hinata. He managed to get into the backyard and decided to make a run for the really big tree and hide out there for a bit. He only made it 5 feet from the door when a spray of really cold water hit him. When he stopped, he glared up to the roof where Anko was with the hose. Point for me, brat. Naruto grinned at her, and the rest of the day went on like this, with the two of them going in an all-out war to one-up the other. Anko got in a few good shots. She once managed to pin him to a wall with her kunai through the edges of his shirt. Only when she took her eyes off him, he slipped out of his shirt and ran off. Naruto then got her back with greasing part of a floor, so when she chased him she slipped and crashed into a wall. Naruto ended up running form snakes, kunai and a few low-level fire attacks, but he gave it back just as much as he could. By now Naruto broke out his water guns and had soaked Anko in water that had ice in the tank, so it was really, really cold. The outcry she gave was well worth it. When he lost one of these guns in fleeing, Anko picked it up and the two ended up in a water fight in the backyard. Both of them were wet, muddy and covered in various things such as flour, sugar, feathers, and paint. Both of them, by the time the sun was going down, were laying on the ground panting, feeling very tired, sore in some areas and just overall drained. Anko couldn't believe she felt so drained by just a kid. She usually only felt like this during extreme training sessions. Naruto was looking up at the darkening sky with a large smile on his face. Despite everything, it had been really fun. So, who won? Anko couldn't take it anymore. Here she was, a jonin, and had spent most of the day going around chasing a kid like she was a kid herself, and he thought it all a game. Truth was, she never had much of a childhood and she never really got to play much as a child, and she found that she had fun herself. It was a total surprise for her, but she actually had fun. It was so twisted that to her it actually made sense. It might not for most others, but for her it did. Don't know and don't care. Come on. We need to clean up and then I can order some food. Can we have ramen? He asked. As long as I can have some dango too. What's dango? She looked shocked at the boy as they got up, and then she smiled. I've got so much to teach you about the finer things in life, and dango is at the top of the list to me. That night, Naruto woke up. It was late in the night by what the clock said. He yawned and felt his dry throat. He knew he couldn't sleep with it like this and grumbled as he got out of bed. He pushed the covers and, grabbing his stuffed fox, Mr. Foxy, he went into the halls. He went for the bathroom, rubbing his eye. It was dark, but he knew his home very well by now. Then he stopped hearing something. He moved to his dad's room where the Anko lady was sleeping. He pushed the door open a bit and looked inside. Anko was on the bed but was tossing and turning and muttering to herself. Naruto knew it was a nightmare. He had seen his dad have a few as well, but his dad never liked to talk about them. So young Naruto climbed into his dad's bed and shook the woman awake. Hey crazy lady, wake up. He froze as she shot up and pressed a kunai to his throat. He froze in that instant, and the look in her eyes were of a cold killer. But she realized what was going on, her eyes widened and she quickly dropped the weapon away. Oh god kid, I'm sorry. Naruto was still a bit scared but put it away. Ever since that day the two ninjas had tried to kill him, he promised not to be scared again. He noticed how sad she looked for a moment looking at the wall in front of her. Bad dream huh? He asked. Anko nodded her head. She didn't want to tell him what exactly. She could barely remember them anyway, but it was all the same. The darkness, the cries of pain, horrible images, people twisted around into horrible images, pain. But she remembered the darkness, the loneliness the most. She noticed the kid was still there in his orange PJs looking at her. What? You want Mr. Foxy to sleep with? He asked honestly, like it was the answer to her problems. Huh? She looked confused. He handed her a stuffed fox. This is Mr. Foxy, he's my favorite toy. I always sleep with him, and when I get nightmares I hug him tightly. I even give him to my dad when he gets nightmares too. Anko had to grin at how strange it all was. She wasn't sure what was more funny. A child trying to console her on things he couldn't possibly understand, or the thought of the great Sharingan Kakashi slept with a stuffed fox when he had nightmares. She tried not to laugh at that image, but it was pretty funny. What is with this family? Do they go around trying to make others feel better or just me? She thought to herself, remembering how Kakashi had talked to her a year ago. It was a long time, but she still remembered that night. She looked down at the kid and smiled, not one of her smiles she used to scare people, but one of her rare and true smiles. Thanks, brat. He smiled up at her since she didn't mean the word in anger but had said it in a gentle tone. Night, crazy lady. He jumped off, going to get his drink of water. Anko snorted and shook her head, trying not to laugh. She flopped back onto the bed looking at the toy. It looked well worn and some repair jobs to it, obviously something that was cared for a long time. She decided after everything maybe she liked the kid after all. Sure, he could be a bit of a brat, but she couldn't remember the last time she had been pushed like that and she actually had fun. You're certainly a strange one, Naruto, but I'll admit this, you make things interesting. Kakashi made it home later, over a week later than he had left. He had just came from the hospital and he felt like hell. The mission had been bad. He lost people got hurt, they got the missing nins, but the price was high. He had a small stab wound that had been patched up, and a cut on his leg that he knew would be giving him problems for a few days at least. He walked inside and found himself in the living room. He landed on the couch, putting his wolf mask on the table inside, feeling like his body was nothing but lead weights. He closed his eyes, just happy to be home. I can't keep doing this, it's killing me. He thought to himself, I think it's time to quit Anbu. If I keep on doing this, it will ruin me. I miss the life of a Jonin. Sure, Anbu is great status, but I don't think I can keep this up much longer. I don't want to be just an empty shell for Naruto later on in life. I want to enjoy his life. He had seen how some people who had cut out all emotion just to keep sane sometimes, and he didn't want that. He knew that this was it. This was the last mission as an Anbu. He just wanted to sleep, but the blood and screams came out of the darkness and wouldn't leave him alone. He suddenly felt a presence behind him and he jumped up and spun, pulling out a kunai. Whoa there, easy one eye, Anko said to him. He relaxed, seeing her. Sorry. Hey, it's okay, we've all been there, she said, seeing him jumpy like that. She guessed he was still wound up from a mission. That was one of the risks with high-level missions. Sometimes you can be jumpy for hours, days, or even a week after it. She sat down across from him, taking in a look. He had cuts on his uniform, dirt and blood. Lots of blood, and from the looks of it, not all of it was his. You look like hell, she said with a forced small smile. I feel like hell, he sighed. How bad? Very bad. Lost 2 people, a few more wounded, one lost his leg, his career as a ninja is over. Anko winced at that. There was only one thing worse for a ninja than death, and that was not being a ninja. To get wounded like that was the worst thing that could happen. You spend your life doing something and then in a moment it's taken from you. I'm through. What? She asked surprised. I'm going back to being a Jonin, this was it for me, I'm tired of the life. I want to be there for Naruto and being a Jonin will let me do that. He looked at her now, so how was he? Enko smiled a bit, well we got off to a rocky start, but the brat is okay as long as you know how to handle him. I have no idea where he gets the energy, she sighed feeling drained. You gave him lots of sugar today didn't you? He smirked seeing her tired nod, I told you not to do that, he's got enough energy as it is. You add in a sugar rush and it's like 10 times worse, you wouldn't believe what I had to go through the first time it happened. Oh trust me I would, how the hell can a kid be that hyperactive? She asked him and he only gave out a laugh. It was good to laugh after all of this and he felt a bit better for it. Enko just smirked at him knowing that he needed to do that as well. Besides that I actually had some fun with the little whirlwind of chaos, that Hyuga girl came by a few times and they played too. Never knew he was friends with one of them. He nodded his head at that, glad to hear things were going well. Yes that would be Hinata, Hiashi Hyuga's daughter. Whoa you mean head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi? Enko said surprised and saw his nod. Damn, never seen the guy in person at least I don't think I did. Some guy named Hisashi dropped him off, she stopped as he started to laugh again. What? Hisashi is Hisashi's twin younger brother, how did you not know who is who? Now she was getting a bit pissed, hey it's not my damn fault. They all look the same to me, all with long hair, same eyes, same style of dress. It's like they're all freaking clones or something. She crossed her arms and looked away feeling a little embarrassed but didn't show it. Well at any rate glad there were no problems, although I really think I'll sleep now. Well I guess it's my time to leave since you're here, she went to get up feeling tired. She had to live an hour walk away too, she didn't like the idea of walking all that way at this time of the night. You can stay here, Kakashi told her and she looked at him surprised, I'm not going to let you go at this hour and besides I think Naruto would want to say goodbye in the morning. So where are you sleeping? She smirked and put her hands on her hips, I've been using your bed and I'm not giving it up. Don't worry I don't think I can move from this spot, the couch is fine, he laid himself down and he was already feeling like he was about to pass out. Enko smiled seeing him like that and went to her room but then stopped. She waited for a few minutes and then silently snuck back, she could see he was passed out and it was just too good a chance. She had to see what was under that mask, she gently went to the couch and slowly started to put her hand to the mask. She held her breath and was just about there when his hand shot up and grabbed her wrist. She jumped but stayed silent, okay fine you can stop faking. Kakashi. Hey, this isn't funny. Then she heard a slight snore and the hand dropped, her eyes widened by the fact that he was still asleep. He grabbed her hand out of reflex which was impressive if not a bit creepy that he knew how to do that. She would try again but figured to just cut her losses, she would find a way to get that mask one day and see what the big deal was with it. She checked to see that Naruto was still asleep and was tempted to get his stuffed toy in place with Kakashi and take a photo. Too bad she didn't bring a camera, oh well always something to do later. She got to the bed and fell asleep pretty fast, Naruto wore her out that day. She woke up to the sun blinding her and groaned rolling over and pulling the covers over her head. God just let me sleep in, she muttered trying to go back to sleep. Unfortunately she was one of those people that had a hard time going back to sleep once she woke up. She tried for 15 minutes and failing that sighed and went to go and get some coffee. She was on her way when she noticed the couch was empty, and the wolf mask still on the table. She arched an eyebrow at that and took a look into the kitchen. I wonder where he is. She thought but then remembered his bloody and torn uniform and the fact he had only just got back from a mission. He might be in the bathroom taking a shower or something, I doubt he wants the kid to see him all bloody like that. She started the coffee and after starting her own breakfast she felt someone walk in behind her. She quickly glanced behind her and saw it was Kakashi, she had to admit she didn't even hear him. He was in loose pants and a t-shirt but still had on that damn mask and kept his left eye closed. Morning. Morning. He sighed, sitting down, feeling all the physical pains of the mission settling in. May, don't you look all domestic. He just barely managed to dodge a kitchen knife that had been thrown at him, although he guessed if she meant it, she wouldn't have missed. Got the warning? She asked, and he nodded. Good, cause there is no way in hell I'm domestic in any way. Got it, Cyclops. Soon after that, Kakashi was helping out since it was a long time since he had a decent meal. Ration bars were not the best tasting food, plus he wanted to make some ramen for Naruto. He always made it when he came back from a mission, and he knew this would make Naruto's morning. It wasn't long after that said blonde boy was walking into the room, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Mornin'. Hey there, son. Naruto's eyes widened at Kakashi's smiling masked face. Daddy. He ran over, hugging the man's legs. Kakashi ruffled Naruto's hair a bit, so glad to see him again. Anko was looking at the scene, and even she had to smile at the sight. She could barely remember her own family as a child, but what she could remember was that she had been happy back then. It seemed like another lifetime ago to her, but she could see just how much the two of them meant to the other. She watched at Kakashi, one of the most feared ninjas to others outside of their village, a prodigy child that was a legend, act like a normal dad in front of her. She wasn't sure if it spoiled the illusion that many built up around him, but to her it just made him seem more human. They ate breakfast together, which was weird since she always ate alone in her place. Even the few times she had some male company over for the night, she usually either kicked out of bed that night or in the morning. She had figured she wasn't the type to get involved in relationships, they just complicated things. Although a small part of her did feel kind of nice like this, she almost felt like a normal person again. Just sitting here having breakfast with a loud, energetic kid, his laid-back father, as he listened to everything his son said with interests. It was kind of surreal for her to find herself like this, but she enjoyed it. After breakfast, she got ready and was about to leave when Naruto walked up to her. Hey, you think you can come again sometime? She could see his hopeful expression, and truth was, she liked the kid. I think so. He smiled even brightly. Cool, my birthday is next month, you wanna come? I don't know, she was never one for that kind of thing. Well, I hope you do, Kakashi said, coming around a corner. Naruto seems to have taken a liking to you, and the more the better, right, Naruto? Yeah, he grinned up at her and she shrugged her shoulders. Tell you what, if I'm not busy, I'll stop by. Cool. Thanks, Auntie Anko, I hope you come. Naruto took off running, happy that someone else might actually show up for his birthday for once. It was nice and all with his dad, but other kids got to have friends over, and so far he only had Hinata, and Guy, and Aruka. He hoped Anko would show up, besides she was fun. Auntie Anko. She looked to Kakashi. You've really made an impression on him. He doesn't usually hand out his little titles like that to just anyone. Looks like he really likes having you around. He smiled at her. She gave a small grunt and turned to leave. Although she didn't show it, it was kind of nice to know that. Naruto's birthday. Naruto woke up that morning, and after getting fully awake, he suddenly realized what today was. He jumped up and changed and ran into the kitchen where Kakashi was there with a breakfast all ready for him. Naruto jumped up and started to dig in right away. Slow down, son, Kakashi smiled. Sorry, Dad, but it's my birthday. And this is going to be the best one. He couldn't wait. For the first time in a long time, he was going to have more people than ever. Hinata was supposed to come, Aruka was coming, the old man with the robes, Guy said he'd show up, and he hoped Anko would too. Well, since it's your birthday, I think you can skip training today. Ah, do I have to? Kakashi was surprised by this. You actually want to train today? Yeah, how else will I get to be a great ninja? Kakashi smiled as he pulled down his mask to eat. It was one of the few times he actually took the time to eat slowly when he was alone with Naruto. He was also happy that Naruto had that kind of work ethic, although it seemed that Naruto seemed to equate training to fun for some reason. Okay, then after this we'll train for a bit, then the others should be here after. Naruto jumped up with a shout and Kakashi had to laugh. There was no doubt that Naruto was the most spirited boy on the planet and he was glad to have taken him in. Later that day, Hinata Hyuga was walking towards Naruto's home with her gift. She hoped that Naruto would like it, and was a little worried he might not. After all, this was the first gift she got for a friend. Thankfully, the presence of her mother beside her was comforting. Now you be a good guest, okay? Her mother asked gently and she nodded her head. They arrived at the Hitaki home and were welcomed in by an energetic Naruto who was happy to see his friend. He grabbed her hand and led her side, glad to start things out. Her mother only smiled a little at the scene and walked in. She found Kakashi there with a young man with a scar over his face. "Ah, glad for you to show up." Kakashi smiled, at least she figured he was with that mask on. "This is Iruka, he looks after Naruto sometimes and I think is like a surrogate big brother to him." Iruka looked a little embarrassed by that. "It's nothing really. I got no family of my own and Naruto is. Well, he takes a little getting used to, but he's pretty fun to hang out with and I got to admit he's never boring." She nodded her head. "Yes, I've noticed that myself." As the two children were playing, a little other guests showed up. First came in Guy, who got a nice welcome from Naruto and an impassive one from Kakashi. This led to Guy telling how Kakashi's attitude was always so hip and cool, all the time while he showed off his fires of youth. Kakashi just responded by asking if he had said something, making the other ninja face fault. In all honesty, Kakashi just tried to tune Guy out when he got on a roll, but he knew exactly what he was going on about. He just did this cause it was fun to tease Guy like that. The next guest was someone that the Hyuga matriarch was surprised to see, but the Hokage himself. He came in with his usual white robes and smiling as Kakashi welcomed him inside of the home. She was still composing herself, not expecting to see him there. She had no idea that Naruto knew the Hokage personally. "Hey, old man!" Naruto yelled out, running over to him. She thought that the Hokage would scold the young boy, but he actually smiled. "Hello there, Naruto, how are you doing today?" he asked, bending down a little. "Great. This is going to be the best birthday ever." He smiled broadly at him. "They have a special relationship," Kakashi whispered to Hinata's mother, who was surprised that the man suck up on her like that. He can get away with calling him that, but to him it's actually an honorary title that he gave out. Like with Guy, who he called Uncle, and Iruka, I've sometimes heard him call him Big Brother, at times as well. It's his way of showing special affection to those close to him. She nodded her head in understanding now. It wasn't long until another guest showed up. A very dressed young woman who she later learned was Anko. Now she understood why her brother's twin, when he came back one day, was muttering about unseemly female ninjas. Anko wore things that no Hyuga would dare be seen out in public, and she really didn't like the idea of her only daughter exposed to such things at such a young age. But it was Naruto's birthday and she wouldn't ruin it. "Ah, Kakashi, I must admit, when I heard you were back as a Jonin, I was glad to hear it." Guy smiled at him. "Finally, I can truly test myself against the mighty Kakashi as who is the best Jonin in all of Konoha." "What are you getting at, Guy?" he asked, confused. "Simple, I hear you are the best and I want to beat you in a challenge of my choosing." "Sorry, not interested." Naruto heard this and got an idea on how to get his dad to go along with it. "Dad, are you saying that you can't beat Uncle Guy? Then maybe the flames of youth are stronger and I should train myself with the power of youth on my side." "That's the spirit, Naruto." Guy gave him the thumbs up pose. Kakashi's visible eye twitched at this. He spent all that time taking away all of Guy's influence on his son. There was no way he was going to let Guy poison his son's mind with that power of youth crap. He started to walk to the backyard and yanked on Guy's shirt, hauling him with him. "Come on and let's get this over with." Kakashi grumbled. Naruto grinned at that, but then he noticed the Hokage and walked over to him. "Hey, old man, I hear that you're the Hokage, right? Does that make you the strongest ninja in the village?" He regarded the young boy. "Yes, Naruto, I suppose I am." "Then one day I'll be as strong as you, no stronger than you. I'll be the strongest of all time." And why is that, Naruto? Naruto smiled up at him, but his eyes were more serious, as though they burned with a purpose. Cause one day I'll be Hokage too. Why do you want to be Hokage, Naruto? Naruto thought about it. Back when the scary man took me, Uncle Guy saved me. I couldn't do anything, but he saved me. He goes out there and protects the people of this village just like my dad and Anko and Aruka. They all protect people and, well, I want to protect people too. I want to make sure nothing bad happens to them, so I'll become the strongest there is to make sure of it. He was actually surprised by the young boy's statement. So much like his father, Minato, you should be proud of your son. The party went on after that, and Naruto had an idea. He had told Hinata about this, but he actually wanted to show her for once. Besides, it was really cool and neat thing that his dad could do. Hey dad, can you let out Pakun and the others? Kakashi looked down to see Naruto with Hinata. You want them here? Yeah, I told Hinata that you can summon ninja dogs that talk and stuff. Besides, I haven't seen them in a long time. Naruto looked up, giving Kakashi a large blue-eyed look. Normally Kakashi would only use his ninja dogs for tracking, although he did use them from time to time to look out for Naruto. Plus the dogs liked him and he was afraid they might spoil him sometimes, but when he would only be away for the day, usually he trusted them to look out for him. Besides, it was his birthday, so he figured they would want to come out for today anyway. Alright then, Naruto, he said to the happy little boy. He pulled out a kunai and a small cut on his thumb. He noticed Hinata gasp at this, covering her mouth. Sorry, summons like this need blood. He went through the hand seals, molding his chakra. Sometimes he needed a scroll to do this, if he needed them for a battle, but when he wasn't in a rush he could use the longer method. He was sure that with enough practice he could pull this off whenever he wanted to. He just never had much need to call them out before Naruto came around. Finally he was finished, summoning jutsu. He slammed his hand onto the ground, and in a big puff of smoke stood 8 dogs in blue clothing with strange childlike drawings of faces on the backs, along with bits and pieces of other clothing. There was everything from Bull the huge bulldog to the smallest but most intelligent of his dogs, Pakun, a small pug who always seemed to have a depressed look on his face. He once asked about that, and Pakun had just said that this was just his normal face. Hinata's eyes were large at the sight of the dogs, and the small one came up to Naruto as he bent down to it. Hey Pakun. Ah Naruto, how is it going? The dog said in a surprisingly deep voice. Great, it's my birthday and I wanted you to meet my friend Hinata. Hey Hinata, come and say hello. Hinata walked a little nervously over to the dogs. They looked at her curiously, and a large white one with small shades on started to sniff her a bit. She went rigid at this, not sure what to do. The little one came up to her. Don't mind him, he's just checking you out. But it's nice to meet a friend of Naruto's. Yep, she's my very best friend, Naruto said, smiling, making the young girl blush as she fidgeted with her fingers, as was her nervous habit. Hey, can she touch your paw? He's got like the best paws, they're super soft and stuff. Pakun was glad to finally find someone who appreciated that. Kakashi never did, that was for sure, so he raised his paw up to the shy girl. She took a timid step before reaching down to the dog and felt it. She was surprised that it was super soft. TT, that's really nice, Kaken-san. Finally people are appreciating this. They have no idea how hard it is for dogs to keep their paws like that, he thought to himself. Hey, you guys want to play? Naruto asked. At that all the dogs looked eager. Naruto liked to play with them, and since they only got called out for missions, this was always a nice break from it all. Kakashi smiled at the scene as the 2 children began to play with his summon animals. He was thinking of one day showing Naruto that, after all, if he could summon his dogs it would help things out. You didn't even need a contract with them since they were part of the family in a way. He was taught this by his father, so it was only fitting to teach Naruto. Plus he would feel a bit better knowing Naruto had them for backup at times. Aruka was standing there smiling, seeing the 2 kids. Somehow Naruto managed to convince Hinata to get on the large bulldog's back as the 2 kids rode around on him. Thankfully he wasn't going very fast, but Hinata was holding onto Naruto very tightly and blushing bright red on her face too. He's a very happy kid, I've never known anyone like him. Kakashi nodded, yeah that he is. The boy is certainly surprising, the Hokage smiled with his pipe in hand. He could see the fire that burned inside of Naruto. If properly cultivated he could go very far in the ninja world. He cast a look at Kakashi. He was sorry to miss such a promising Anbu, although Itachi was making very good progress filling in the role. But he knew what happens when an Anbu burns out. It wasn't pretty and he could see that Kakashi wanted to get out before that happened. Still, besides that, he had to admit that Kakashi had changed a bit since taking in Naruto. Sure, he was still late but not as much, and a few times he actually showed up only 5 minutes late. He still visited the monument to pay his respects but didn't spend hours there since he had to take care of Naruto. He also noticed that Kakashi had been actually happier. It was subtle but the old man knew what to look for, and he could see the change in the young man. He cast a look to Anko, who was talking with the Hyuga matriarch, and who was trying to keep on her proper mask while Anko was trying her best to crack that mask. By the looks of it, she was giving one of her in-depth stories, either about something that would turn stomachs or make someone blush bright red. Even he had to admit she seemed a bit better knowing Naruto. It seemed that Naruto had the ability to touch the hearts and minds of those he came into contact with. He smiled at that. It was definitely something he would need if he truly did want to become Hokage. A frown slipped into his face then, remembering all the things that had happened to the boy, accidents, and other things. It was a good thing that only rumors surrounded the boy and nothing concrete, although there were members of the council that still felt that the public had a right to know if the seal were ever broken. It was silly, of course, that seal couldn't be just broken like a twig, but still others were afraid. He was afraid what would happen if the truth finally did come out. He knew there were those that would stand by Naruto, but he was worried. Already he heard of how children were warned away from him, and if that came out, then what would they think if their parents started to outright call him a demon and monster? He didn't like it, not at all. After some playing, which Naruto managed to get Iruka involved in a little, it was time for Naruto's presents. His face lit up at the different colored boxes. He picked up one from Hinata first. He opened it up and found a kimono that fit him. It was all orange and black, his favorite colors. There was a headband too, and there was even a new toy in there. Cool. Thanks, Hinata. Hinata smiled, glad that he liked it. He put aside the clothing except for the headband that he put on. From Iruka he got a book on ninjas, which he was eager to learn from. His dad gave him some new training clothing and blunted kunai set, telling him he was ready for weapons training with him. Naruto was eager to try them out the next day. From the Hokage he got a couple of cool toys. Guy gave him a few leg and arm weights for his training. He was going to give Naruto another green jumpsuit, but Kakashi had told him beforehand if he ever tried to give Naruto one of those again he would use his Sharingan. Last was Anko, who handed him a box. Wasn't sure what to get ya, Brad, but I think you may like it, she told him. Naruto opened it up and saw a few things in there. He pulled out a mask. In fact, the box held at least 4 sets of the same mask. They were all black but had 3 orange slash marks that looked like his whisker marks on his face. Naruto's eyes lit up and put it on. Now with the mask and headband he looked like a smaller and blonder version of Kakashi. Kakashi smiled at the sight of it, as Naruto smiled back at him, mimicking his dad's smile with how his eyes closed. Great, now there are 2 of them, Iruka grinned, shaking his head. You got a problem with my gift, Scar Boy? Anko said dangerously, and he immediately jumped back from the Jonin. She only gave him a wicked grin that sent shivers down his spine, and not in the good way. Thanks, Auntie Anko, this is cool. Naruto thought it really was. With the headband and now his very own masks, he looked a lot like his dad now. He wanted to become just as powerful as his dad, even more so. He wanted to make sure that all the people that were precious to him were safe, and he would train hard to do that. Today had been the best birthday ever, and he went off to play ninja with Hinata, as they had the ninja dogs to help out as well.